share you some basics, okay? So for this, my archer is at item level 447, okay? And it has a Storm Cry Cheer plus 0. And my accessories are all carving, although some from some of the guides would say that I should go power after hitting the 236 mark on my critical. However, I just feel confident if all of my attacks land a critical hit. So right now I'm at 260 base critical factor because this is a Castanic, okay? And with additional 276 from my gears. Now I chose Castanic because of its passive. The passive skill for Castanics, we have Dirty Fighting, increases the chance to crit by 1% when attacking from behind. And based on the reviews and the guides that I have been reading, Castanics um, is the best archer race to play so far. I don't know if it's just the same with desktops, but I just love Castanics. Okay, not hating lollies. I love Elines, but Castanics as archers are just so damn good with their leather armor. Okay, now for my archer, the basic rotations that I have, it just involves four main skills. I have my lightning arrow, my radiant arrow, penetrating arrow, and rain of arrows. Okay, now my radiant arrow and my lightning arrow are actually my main skills. Okay, and my penetrating arrow is one of my fillers. Okay, and rain of arrows is one of your main skills. My main skill when I play in a party. Okay, but if I solo, I do not use rain of arrows because you cast it in a spot, okay, and monster tend to move out of the spot, hence the damage from this skill is kind of useless. Plus, the cast time, it's not worth it when you're doing your Island of Dawn quest. That's just for me, okay? Now for my glyphs, for Radiant Arrow, I have um, Slick Radiant Arrow so that I can reposition while charging the skill, and carving, so you'll have double the chance to crit. For my penetrating arrow, I also have empowered, skill damage increased by 25%, and select so that I can reposition myself again while charging the skill. So between the two, um, radiant arrow is your main skill because it hits harder, okay? And the base critical for this is actually higher than your penetrating arrow. Penetrating arrow, once it hits on a critical damage, it's actually big as well. However, with the critical rate that I have, more often it crits, but sometimes it doesn't. So penetrating arrow is your to-go-to skill if your radiant arrow and your lightning arrow are on cooldown. So my rain of arrows, I have all glyph, so decreased cooldown by 25%, speed cast by 40%, and increased skill damage by 25%. Once again, when you're doing IOD, do not use this skill because IOD monsters, this BAM stands to move in all places, and the damage from rain of arrows, it's not just worthy once the monsters move out of the spot. So I have my backstep as well, decrease cooldown by 29%, okay? My rapid fire, okay, rapid fire is very important because every time you cast your main skills, it acts as a filler, and so far, correct me if I'm mistaken, but this is the best filler in Terra, okay? I have persistent rapid fire, 15% chance to eliminate cooldown, and empowered, increase skill damage by 20%. So no glyph for spirited rapid fire because as an archer you will really have no issues with your MP consumption. And rapid fire is the skill that would let you know if you're having bad ping or bad internet. Okay, Archer is really ping dependent, so if you have issues with your ping or with your internet speed, I would recommend not to play Archer. You'll just get frustrated because rapid fire tends to be not rapid at all. So My next skill is your sequential fire. Your sequential fire is the lethal skill that you can only cast after casting your main skills because it staggers enemies. So for my glyphs, I have here my energetic sequential fires. So the cooldown is decreased by 35%, and persistent sequential fire, a 50% chance to reset the cooldown. So with these two glyphs, I never had any issues with my sequential fire. So it's like I cast this every time I cast my main skills. I also have my thunderbolt, so all of the glyphs I have it here. My carving, my empowered, and speed cast time by 30%. So that's it for my glyphs. Now for my chain skills, all of my main skills I've changed it to sequential fire and rapid fire. So meaning to say every time I cast my main skill, it's gonna be followed up by sequential fire, which has a very big tendency to stagger BAMs, followed by your rapid fire. It's your best filler. So I also have it on my penetrating arrow and on my thunderbolt. But for my penetrating arrow, aside from rapid fire, I also have my poison arrow here as part of my chain skill to ores, because sometimes rapid fire is just on cooldown. It doesn't proc the 50% chance to remove cooldown. I have poison arrow to back it up as a filler. Okay. Now, all of my traps here, I just chained it into one for fun purposes. I am a PvP-oriented player. Most of the time, I don't use these traps. However, some players I heard, they use these traps in PvPs or in group PvPs, but I just don't. Okay? Now, there are three main bosses in Island of Dawn, and the reason why I recommend you farming this is that because every time you finish a Vanguard request for an IOD quest, you'll have this different rewards. Okay, the credits where you can exchange items for points for items. You'll have your brilliant enchanting chest where you can get enchanting items for your Stormcry gear. You'll have your Dawnstorm token, I'll explain it later, and your item experience. Okay, so far it gives 282, one of the highest quests that gives item experience for a 447 item level character. Every time that you do your Vanguard request, item experience is needed because it helps you increase the chance to have a success rate in upgrading your equipment. But trust me, guys, it doesn't necessarily means 100% success rate. It just means base success rate. So for example, Stormcry G plus 0 has a base success rate of 30% if I'm not mistaken. And every time that you hit the max item experience, as you can see here, okay, it increases the success rate far from your base success rate. So if we check this out, okay, my base success rate is now at 35%. So that's an additional 5%, or I suppose. Okay. So speaking of cheers, I almost forgot to tell you something. My crystals, they are spiteful, savage, pounding, and focused. So some of the guides that you've been reading, they have this savage setup, meaning to say one of the crystals here, pounding, is swapped for a savage crystal. A savage crystal increases your critical rate by 1.76%, if I'm not mistaken, if you are below 50% HP. I would only recommend that setup if you are really a pro in Archer and if you have a good party setup, because it's gonna increase your DPS. However, Archers are already squishy, and if you are not that pro in using Archer, like me, I'm not that pro, you'll have you'll get the tendency just to be one hit by bosses in dungeons. Okay, now let's start the IOD quests. Your IOD quests involves three BAMs. BAMs stands for big ass monsters. So the first BAM here is your Naga Hydrath. your brutal onyx hydra. I mean, so the first thing that you need to do is to debuff the boss by using your Velix mark. Okay, okay, the one on my trap here. Okay, because it increases your attack on that boss. Okay, and followed by this eye buff. This eye buff will make sure that your next attack is a sure attack that comes from the rear or a back attack. Okay, and prior to engaging into boss fights, make sure that you have this buff on. Okay, and make sure that you have your prime battle solution on as well. Okay, archers are supposed to be long range, but when you're doing your Island of Dawn, I would recommend that you stay the closest to the boss. Okay, like 4 meters, because that's the closest that you can get. 3 to 4 meters, not 0 meters. Okay, so let's start. I debuff the boss, followed by my buff, then my lightning arrow, followed by the sequential fire, which it did not went through. There you go. Then, as much as possible, I move to the back of the boss. My crystals are set up to do most damage in the back. So, Hydraths are actually one of the disappointing bosses, disappointing BAMs here because of its skills. So aside from knocking you down so many times, it's gonna cause a damage over time that takes like 5,000 HP per second or per 2 seconds. Okay, so if you're doing IOD quests, regardless of the BAM that you're facing, the most important thing to make sure is that you debuff the boss. Okay, debuffing the boss will make your attacks higher, and also it's gonna make sure that the boss will not move. So your failure rapid fire staggers the boss, and you also have this skill. Okay, this skill, close quarters, will kick the BAM or the enemy 2 times, and the second kick may stun the foe. But for BAMs, it works 90% of the time. That's why this is the reason why I'm telling you to go close to the BAM. Now, it is possible to have a stagger stun lock combo in Tera. However, we have to take note that doing stuns and staggers, it doesn't overlap in 4 BAMs. So if you stun the BAM followed by stagger, the BAM will stay in a stun status. So your stagger, it's kind of useless. So you have to time your status attacks perfectly. So your close quarters, once it stuns the BAM, it can actually stun the BAM for 3 seconds. And once the stun is finished, that's the time I stagger the boss. So every time that you do this, you'll have like a debuff, debuff sign under the boss's bar, okay, with a 3-second cooldown. So my technique is to actually release my charge skill once the countdown is at 1. So I'll show you how. I will go close to the boss, stagger it. Okay. Okay, I stunned, and you see the countdown. There you go. Okay. So you can either follow it up with another stagger, or if your stun doesn't work, just get a fuck out there. So that's see, I did not have any damage. So I did maintain a very close distance to the BAM, and making sure that I alternate my stagger from my rapid fire, from my sequential arrow, and my close quarter skill. Okay, so if you have your stun up if you have your stun up, do not stagger the boss not unless it reaches the 1 second cooldown. Meaning to say it has 1 second remaining for the boss to be in a stun status. Okay, so this is the first boss you get. You have to kill like 10 of them, okay, to finish the quest. So the next BAM that we will visit here in IOD is my most favorite BAM to kill. Okay, it's the Naga Battle Master. I say favorite to kill because it's slow, okay, it's predictable, and it doesn't hit that hard. Okay, so first, my priority are my debuffs and my buff, followed by my lightning arrow, stagger, carry position, stagger again. Okay, then this time I use my close quarters. Count down to 1 second. Stagger. Okay. Next hit. Stagger. Go to the back of the box. That's it. It's as simple as that. Okay. BAMs, if you're new to Terras, BAMs in IOD it can be quite a headache because of the status attacks, because they move a lot in the map. So if you don't contain your BAMs, that's why brawlers are one of the most ideal class to use in IOD because they tend to just fix the boss in one position. But as an archer, you can actually do that. Okay. So this one is your Iron Chariot. Okay. See? That's the reason why I don't want to be too far from this boss because it's gonna charge, it's gonna run to you and just knock you down. So it's as easy as that, okay? So, ask me if what's the reason behind I'm doing my IOD aside from my item level, aside from the item level experience, aside from the brilliant enchanting chest. I run IODs because of the Dawnstorm token. So the Dawnstorm token is a very helpful token, that is, because once you go to your inventory, okay, and highlight your Dawnstorm token and hit use or press circle on your DS4s, you'll actually open the shop where you can use these tokens as the currency. So you'll have here your free etchings. Okay, they are permanent etchings, so one etching can 90 Dawnstorm tokens can be exchanged for one etching. So for archers, we use energetic etching for our weapon, okay, for increased attack speed by 2% and decrease skill cooldowns by 2%. I use grounded for my body armor. For my footwear, I also use grounded, and for my handwear, I use energetic. So you can get this for farming IOD Dawnstorm tokens for doing your IOD quests. Aside from that, the main reasons is this Draconis Fenris Fragment. Now, your Draconis Fenris Fragment, once you have 40 of this, you can actually exchange this for a flying skill, the Iron Dragon. So this is the Iron Dragon, guys. Okay, so it's not for aesthetic purposes only, but I recommend getting an Iron Dragon because of the passive skill that the dragon can give you. The passive skill is what we call the Dragon Master. So your Dragon Master passive skill increases your critical power by 1. So your critical power gets high as 150% once this procs. Okay, it's good for 10 seconds with a 1 minute cooldown. So your DPS will be higher by 50% once it procs. So get yourself a dragon as early as possible with a Dragon Master passive skill. There are two types of dragons here. You'll have a dragon with a Dragon Master skill, a critical power by 1, and you'll have your dragons with Draconis Rex, critical power by 2. You can have them both. Okay, they will not be triggered at the same time, but they will be triggered um, alternately. So most of the time, if you have two dragons, Draconis Rex, one passive skill, Dragon Master for one passive skill, the Draconis Rex passive skill triggers first, followed by your Dragon Master skill. So you'll have 200% critical power for the Draconis Rex. Then later you'll have 150% critical power for the Dragon Master. So if you don't want to spend a dime for dragons here, farm IOD tokens, exchange your IOD tokens for your Draconis Fairies Fragment. Once you get 40 of this, you'll have your Iron Dragon. Okay? Now, your other dragon, you can get it by doing your 439 Vanguard requests and up. Now, this Vanguard requests for item level 439 and above will also reward you with a dragon skill. Now, your dragon skill, you need 10 of this. Okay, once you get 10 of this, you can exchange it. For a loot box where it has like a very very low chance of giving you a crimson dragon. So the crimson dragon is like your iron dragon, but it's colored red because of the name crimson. Okay, and it has the Draconis Rex skill. So if you want to increase your DPS by means of these skills, then do your 439 item level 439 dungeons and get to gamble for a Crimson Dragon, and also do your IOD quests for you to get your Draconis Fairies Fragment. Okay, so if you have any questions, just feel free to comment, and I will I will get back to you. I don't promise, but I will get back to you. Thank you guys. Have a great day.